name is Matigela. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I want us to look into how Magistrate Cronje has also exposed. In fact, the case has exposed even Magistrate Cronje's so-called confession statement from Bongani Ntanzi, the illegality of it. Let's talk about that, né? Because this one, it cuts deep. Because the moment the state leaned on the second formal confession taken by Magistrate Cronje, it was supposed to fix everything. Instead, it exposed everything. Okay, it exposed the state, how the state's own reliance on that confession linked to Bongani Ntanzi ended up cracking their case from the inside. Okay, it's bad, guys. It's bad. It's bad. It's so bad. You can't even rely on it. Now, there was a promise, name magistrate confession is equal to a bulletproof case, right? That's how we understand. In South African law, a confession before magistrate is supposed to be the gold standard under Criminal Procedure Act, especially Section 217. Why? Because a magistrate is independent from police, right? Required to ensure no coercion, required to confirm the accused is sound and sober, required to document everything properly. So when the state introduced the Cronje confession, the message was simple. This is clean, this is voluntarily, this is final. But the moment that document was tested in court, everything started collapsing. Let's get into this. Problem number one, timing that makes no sense. Line up because it's about to get down. Let's line this one up. Arrest, 16 June 2020. First confession before a justice of peace, 19 June 2020. Second, a confession before Magistrate Cronje, 24th June 2020. Now, here is the problem. A second confession only makes sense if the first one was incomplete or the accused voluntarily wants to expand. But in this case, there's no clear reason why Ntanzi would repeat and expand his confession days later, especially after already implicated himself. That raises a dangerous legal question. Was this truly voluntarily, or was the narrative being refined and reinforced? Problem number two, cut and paste confession syndrome. When the state started comparing the first statement, Rapadu's statement, the second statement, Magistrate Cronje, a pattern emerged. The structure, the flow, and even phrasing patterns looked suspiciously aligned. That's not how real confessions behave. Real confessions are messy, have inconsistencies, reflect memory, not scripting. But this, it looked too clean, too aligned, too rehearsed, which feeds directly into devastating inference. The confession may not be a memory, it may be reconstruction guided by investigators. Problem number three, the sound and sober illusion. Under Section 217, the magistrate must confirm the accused is mentally clear, not assaulted, not threatened, not influenced. But here is where the courtroom tension exploded. Ntanzi's version, claims of pressure, claims of prior treatment before reaching the magistrate, claims that the process before the confession was not clean. Now, think about this carefully. The magistrate only sees the accused at the moment. They do not see what happened in custody, what happened during interrogation, what happened in the days before. So the sound and sober finding becomes a snapshot, not the full story. And that weakens the reliability of the entire confession. Problem number 4, procedural red flags. This is where things get dangerous for the state because the strength of the confession is not just content, it's procedure. And here, multiple cracks appeared. Interpreter issues. Was interpretation properly done? Was every word accurately conveyed? Or was the process rushed or assumed? Documentation inconsistencies, signatures and initials questioned, placement of writing versus official pro forma sections. Who actually wrote this? Lack of original notes, no contemporaneous record, only finalized documents. That creates a chain of trust problem. If the process is questionable, the product confessions becomes questionable because where is the statement that was written by Umtansi in isiZulu? Problem number 5, the section 219 time bomb. Here is the legal exclusion the defense kept pointing to under section 219 of the Criminal Procedure Act. A confession by one accused cannot be used against others. Now think about the state strategy. The confession mentions names. It tries to link a broader group. It builds a narrative beyond Bongani Ndansi himself. But legally, that linkage is restricted. So instead of strengthening the case, the confession becomes a contained piece of evidence that cannot fully support the broader state theory. The turning point when the confession backfires. Once the defense started pulling these threads together, timing inconsistencies, structural similarities between statements, procedural irregularities, sound and sober limitations, section 219 restrictions, the courtroom dynamic shifted. Because now the question was no longer did Ndansi confess, it became, can this confession be trusted at all? And that is a completely different battle right now. The bigger problem for the state, here is where it gets nuclear. The state didn't just use the confession, they leaned on it heavily. So when it started cracking, it weakened their narrative. It exposed investigative gaps. It opened the door to reasonable doubt, serious reasonable doubt. And in a criminal trial, reasonable doubt is everything. The Cronje confession was meant to be the foundation of the state case. Instead, it became the trap that exposed how the investigation may have been guided, how the narrative may have been shaped, how the procedure may not have been airtight. Now, the real takeaway when it comes to this is that this wasn't just about the confession, about one confession. It became a test of police conduct, procedural fairness, prosecutorial strategy, judicial safeguards. And once doubts enters a confession, it doesn't stay small, it spreads. So Uba Loyi has issues. He has real problems. And unfortunately, it's problems that he cannot run away from. So what are your thoughts when it comes to this? Let's talk in the comment section. I want to hear your views. Thank you so much. I will see you in our next video. Bye-bye.